Hello, my name is SpiderJet, and this is not a normal type of video that I do, but I really wanted to see, I had a burning question in my mind as soon as I heard that Gaming4HOPE is playing Deadlock, because, I come from Overwatch, and he's a very infamous name over in Overwatch. And a lot of people, he is what is colloquially known as a lolcow. Mr. David here, who I'm going to call because I don't really want to keep saying Gaming4HOPE. It's kind of just a long name. Anyways, so I was just really curious about how good he actually is at this game. And so I just wanted to watch some of his gameplay and go over, obviously he's in Bricklow. You can pull up his stat locker here. He's unironically in Bricklow. And that's fair, considering it's like his 20th game ever or something. And, I'm not making fun of him for being in Bricklow. That's where everyone starts. I just want to see, how much does... Well, I was going to say his skill in Overwatch translate, but I think that's a bit generous of a term. I mean, I hardly play the game, and I think I'm still a better tank than him. Anyways, first things first. At the start of the game, you can already tell that he has the Forever Jail option activated that auto-cues his entire build, which is not great. What is great, however, is he actually hits a lot of the shots on this vendor and Mina, and actually, genuinely punishes these two for playing poorly. He does get hit by the love bites here. I'm just gonna assume that he did not know what love bites does, and now that he got hit by it once, he's like, okay, I shouldn't peek the Mina. Another thing I noticed that I'm impressed isn't the right word because it's more like the bare minimum, but he's alt leveling his abilities, which I love to see because, quite honestly, I've seen way too many people in far too high of an elo not alt level their abilities, and it's just really frustrating. His power surge usage isn't bad either. It's because he's playing 7. 7's a pretty weak laner. So it's actually pretty good to use your abilities as 7 to clear the wave as much as possible so that you can shove it, like what's actually happening here. Is this on purpose? No, almost certainly not. I do not think he's considering any of this, as no one did when they were first playing the game. Again, not a condemnation, just an observation. The whole concept of this entire video isn't like, oh my god, look at how dog shit this guy is. I'm not saying he's not dog shit, I'm just saying that's to be expected. MOBAs are such an insanely inherently difficult genre of game to get into that it would be weirder if he came in and he could do all of these things and would know all of these things right off the bat. Now, his Dynamo actually did just die, right? And this was not his fault. You'll notice that the Mina is respawned. They killed her, and that was why the Dynamo is staying, to deal some damage to the tower. But now that she's respawned, the correct choice is actually to back off and to buy, because neither of them have items, and the small camps just spawned. However, just because that is the correct choice, again, doesn't mean that he made it, right? I fully believe that was an accident. It could be, on purpose, but this guy I am not giving the benefit of the doubt, because I would never give any new player the benefit of the doubt. Here I think he should have stunned Mina with his 2 as it was online, but hey, that's okay, because he's about to stun the Mina. I watched just a little bit of this before deciding to make it a video, and the reason why you want to stun the Mina is, right now, in this current juncture, she does not have her bats up. She only has her love bites and her rake. Because, every Mina is going to start love bites and then go rake and then get bats. She also has minus debuff resist, so you're gonna be stunning her for longer. And unfortunately, neither he nor the Dynamo actually did anything with this, but that's okay, it made her back off for a second. That Mina and that Venator were just kind of bad. He could have dealt a little more damage to the tower here. At this point, I would also be backing off again, because the vendor is back. Especially as 7. 7 doesn't have a lot in the ways of doing anything. He doesn't have a lot of mobility, is what I'm trying to say. So once they come back, if he's right there, they can kind of clap him. As for why auto Q is bad, I have an entire video about that already. Genuinely pretty good tracking on that Mina. I don't know where that is in his Overwatch gameplay. Alright, we're coming up on the 5-minute mark. And if you have like maybe over 100 hours in the game, you already know that that means that the buffs are about to spawn. When the buffs are about to spawn, what you want to do is you want to shove the wave as hard as possible and make your way over to the buff bridges. Because the buff bridges are, the buffs are really important. They're effectively a free tier 3 item, just like sitting there for anyone to take. However, as discussed, this is literally brick low, so for the next 45 seconds, no one's going to take either of the buffs. So if you're David here in this situation, what you want to do is there's a jump pad right here, right next to where your sinners would spawn here, that takes you to this bridge where you can then take that buff, and then you can like dash jump back or whatever you want to do, especially because you have extra stamina. Now, I haven't really talked about his build much. It's not a terrible build as far as things go. I did see that it was specifically made for beginners. I'm not like a SAR of 7, so I can't tell you how, like the efficacy of the build. But the extra stamina here I find is really interesting. Because he doesn't, and this is obviously not like a choice that David's making because he's just left to writing build. Which is like, whatever. I don't care if you left to write a build in your like first 10 matches ever, right? This build is so interesting because it doesn't get like Arcane Surge or something, which is like the only reason I could fathom that you would buy extra stamina on 7. But I guess I'm addressing this video to David. Hello, by the way. So if he's watching this, then I guess bringing that up isn't very helpful. What I do want to tell you is never hit this Q build button, never have this selected. It's not good, you're just like shooting yourself in the foot. It's going to hurt you in the long run. And I'm just gonna be honest, this looks ugly. Having 22 items in your quick buy. At least you don't have it that it auto buys when you're in the shop. I would rather you not have this checked if you're gonna have that checked. But this is just so much better. I also want to point out, I feel like he thinks that he can't open the shop if he's not in range of the shop. Secondly, he does have knowledge of the button that quick buys, the G button, right? Is what it is, the default keybinds. And again, I'm not sure if he knows that you don't need the shop actually open. Like, you don't need to be pressing B or to be in that menu to buy from the shop when in range. As long as you just press G, it's fine.
Sorry. Goal is to try and do more of the farming stuff.
Well, he says the goal is to do more of the farming stuff, and that's why he was ignoring the creep wave on green. But the thing is, creeps are worth so much more than camps that it's genuinely just not worth ignoring a creep wave for a camp ever for any reason. But again, I don't necessarily expect him to know that. This is, I suppose, for the viewer's information. I don't know what he thought he was doing with that storm cloud. Let's call it limit testing. Okay, so getting on the zipline there was hella ballsy. I have no idea what the hell that was. Maybe he doesn't know what hyperlining is. If you're on the zipline, if you're on the zipline and you get shot, you get a debuff called hyperline that deals like, I think it's 10% of your max health as damage to you, and you get stunned for like 3 seconds. It's super long. It's completely awful. You never want to risk it. And this also happens on vents. You can kind of risk it on vents depending on like the elo of your lobby, or if you just straight up don't respect the aim of the person, because hitting it on a vent is far harder than on the zipline. Okay, that's another thing. that I have to bring up right here. Not to pause it just again, but... And I thought I wouldn't have to talk about it, because right here, not right here, right here, he does actually slide, which is, like, confusing to me, because right after, he then dashes without sliding. And I only bring this up because it's like, it's now foreign to me to use a dash, at least a ground dash, and then not slide afterwards. And then this is not the only time that he's done it. You know, I'm not going to bring up something like mantle sliding or super gliding, because I don't think that's on the same level, but I don't think it's hard to slide after a dash. By the way, both buffs have now been up for a minute. I love Pisslow. I'm actually surprised that anyone is running the Urn and Bricklow. Again, assuming David sees this or something. The Urn is a tertiary neutral objective. You should be sliding down those stairs. The Urn is a tertiary neutral objective that will grant the runner a large amount of souls. It's like 3,000 directly to your bank account. And this is mostly done by, like, your position 1 and 2s, which, actually, I think he mentioned that he played League, so I guess he might not know what I mean by that. So, your heroes that farm a lot, like Seven, Warden, Venator, are the 3 that are in the game right in front of me. Those are the ones that want to run the Urn the most. Someone that also wants, like, a large amount of farm, or at least... you know, just like something so that they have extra power at one point, or if they're just lacking in farm when they need it, can also run the Urn, of course. But these days, I wouldn't say Celeste is nearly, you know, even half as important as someone like Seven or Infernus would be to run the Urn. Not that that's David's fault, I'm just bringing it up because it happened. I also would not have ulted the Walker there, me personally. I don't think it even ended up dealing all that much damage to the Walker. I'm pretty sure you still, you still had your power surge up. So there's no reason not to be shooting it, because you would be dealing more, the same amount, if not more, DPS if you were just shooting it. Because Stormcloud is less of a damage ability and more of an AoE area denial ability until the late game. Now, here, he obviously shouldn't be here. If, you know, you play Deadlock, then you would know that this is kind of just like a bad position to be in, because he doesn't know where anyone on the enemy team is. They very much likely know where he is, because he just destroyed the Walker there. And in fact, the Venator is right there. He shouldn't be here because he doesn't know where the enemy team is, and he's pushed up very far in their jungle, or just in their territory in general. Now, if you don't necessarily know what I mean, if you take a look here at my mouse, you don't really want to cross this point here where the Guardians spawn. You know, you can take like these tier 2 camps, right, and then go back into your area, because it's just generally a bad idea, because around that area is where it becomes, you know, too far into enemy territory for teammates to save you. So what I'm going to predict here, I'm not sure what happens next. What I'm going to predict here is that he gets caught out in the end of like 1 to 3 teammates on the enemy team are going to punish him for this. And my hope is that now that after that happens, he's okay, he actually gets out scot-free. My hope was that he gets punished for it, and then, you know, I don't know, like, learns to, in the future, never do that again. Right? And there are times when it is appropriate to go that far up. Generally, if you saw, like, 4 people here, we saw 2 over here, and we know where McGinnis is, but that still leaves Mina, Warden, and Lash. They're a big question mark right now, right? And at least 2 of those can kind of instantly deal like half of your health bar, which is very scary, especially, again, when you're in enemy territory. Hi there, it's Editing Fighter Jet. Just to clarify something, so I recalled when I was watching, you know, a bit of the VOD again, that David mentioned that he doesn't he's really trying to like take learning things in this game like one step at a time, right? And that was his justification for not sliding after a dash, right? My concern is that the reason why I felt the need to interject this is that someone might not understand how easily you can implement what I'm saying into your gameplay, because the explanation for it just sounds a bit obtuse. It sounds like a bit much, right? Which is fair. I'm not saying that you're like wrong or stupid for thinking that, because it's not even necessarily wrong. It's more just the fact that just because the explanation for why you're doing something is somewhat complicated, right? That doesn't mean the way that you actually handle it has to be, right? All I'm basically saying is don't go that much farther than your zipline, that color on the map, as long as it's not red, right? If you do that, you're basically golden most of the time. And you see this a lot in Bricklow. Again, it's not just David here. It's a lot of low tier players kind of just W key without any thought, or perhaps it's less lacking in thought and more they just simply don't understand. This is really bad now. The Mina simply, I don't know, doesn't understand that they could easily kill him. Oh, maybe she does. He did say that he's too far forward, I heard it. So it's very possible that he learns from this experience. Only in Bricklow will you see just the entire team pushing up yellow for no reason. With no advantage. In fact, they're down a man, or they were when they started. And they're leaving green to die. Well, that's not a Bricklow exclusive thing. That happens up to, like, I want to say gold.
Stay green? Why stay green? I'm sure you're right. I'm like questioning to understand, not questioning because I think you're stupid.
Okay, so his chatter just told him to stay green, and he's asking the chatter why, because he doesn't understand. And there's actually a myriad of reasons. Alright? The first reason is that currently there are 4 of your teammates pushed up here on yellow. If anything happens on yellow, they can handle it. I mean, they shouldn't be there. They're most definitely going to die. But you can't change that fact unless you like get on comms and tell them you really shouldn't be there, right? Secondly, okay, the next part is kind of like a bit of a higher concept, right? So I'll get to that later, actually. I'll move on to thirdly. Simple as there's a wave here, it's worth more than this camp. Now back to the second thing, the thing that's kind of a higher concept thing. You can execute this a lot easier than how complicated the reasoning is, right? Because the execution is literally just stay green if you're an M1 hero. The reason is because generally, as an M1 hero, you're going to lack movement. Generally, right? Like, Warden, Venator, 7, all of them are not great in that department. And so the reason why this has anything to do with being in the left lane is that you'll notice that he is in fact closer to the blue walker, the mid lane, which makes rotations easier for both you and your teammates. Also, it's closer to the double centers, which basically just belongs to the M1 hero on the team. Now, again, I can't really fault you for not knowing that, because I don't see a single Sinners that's been taken on the map. Another reason why you just don't want to be here, like this is like the worst position to be in right now, is because this is... Some people call these camps, the one that he's taking right now, as an unstealable camp. And the reason why people call him that is because it's right next to the walker, and it's super deep in your territory. Right? It's very hard for the enemy team to steal, especially because it's the triple tier 3. This is kind of the camp that you want to take last, if possible, because it's going to always be there for you to take. Versus these tier 2 camps are very valuable and very stealable. These tier 2s, that tier 1, that tier 2, that tier 2, all free for the taking on the enemy by the enemy team, basically. So you want to secure that as fast as possible, and that's generally the main reasons why you want to be in the left lane at all times as an M1, unless you've gotten to the point where you can start fighting. I'm just going to assume that David is not looking at the map right now, or that he just hasn't been in general, which, again, as I've mentioned in actually a lot of previous videos, that's not a good thing. By the way, I'm pretty sure... yeah, that green buff went unclaimed for 5 minutes. That's awesome. Anyways, I'm pretty sure David has not been looking at the map, which, as I mentioned in a lot of other videos, that's pretty common for new players as well. But as you start to get better at this game, you'll notice that, like, maybe half of all your time in this game, again, depending on the hero and what role you play, maybe half of all time that you spend playing this game is spent looking at the minimap. Wait, hold on, something magical just happened. He just commented on the amount of teammates he has in a lane. That means he is, in fact, looking at the map. I feel like a proud father, but, like, if my child was a lol cow, I guess. What is this Celeste doing?
Please.
Okay, so he didn't melee the vendor there when he was low health, and that was actually the right thing to do. He was about to reload, he was full health, there was no reason he absolutely had to kill the vendor right then. Hi there, it's Editing Fighter Jet again, because for some reason I didn't explain why he was right to not melee the vendor there to kill him, and this is basically just because if you're about to die, and you know you're about to die, there is no reason not to parry, because that's a lot of times the only reason that you can get out if there's a world where you get out. It's if you parry stun the enemy, right? So if you're full health like David was in that situation, you should not be meleeing because you're just giving them a way to get out in a fight that you have otherwise already won. You're just being, like, selfish or impatient because you want to kill them now. Again, this is kind of just a bad camp to take when you have literally just so much farm on the map.
Oh my god, I'm going green.
Alright, what I want to see here from you today, David, is I want to see you take this tier 2 camp, then that tier 1 camp, and then take that creep wave, depending on how quickly it takes you to take that. Now, the fact that you're not jumping off the zip line right now is kind of giving me the shivers. It's not wrong per se to do the creep wave first, but if you did the tier 2 camp first, then the creep wave would push up to here, which is closer to where you want to be, that is to say, closer to your walker.
Oh, I should buy items. Gosh dang it, bro. There's so much that I just...
I don't even... This is the new update, by the way. I'm pretty sure.
Oh shoot, there's more than
This stream was from yesterday. What? Where are you going? Where are you going? The McGinnis is pushing that up. But... Well, he just stacked like maybe a third of the walker's health for no reason. That was awesome. Please stun the McGinnis. Thank you. And, I mean, here we're just seeing why 7 has a 58% win rate. Well, no, hold on. Okay, I don't need to make this about 7. That McGinnis was just inting for no reason. Please take that tier 1 camp. Okay. Please use Power Surge. Okay, so here's something you might not know about late game 7 builds. This isn't even late game, this is mid game. Here's something you might not know about mid-game 7 builds. Once you get tier 3 Power Surge and Duration Extender on it, that thing's cooldown is the same length as the buff's duration. There is no reason to ever not have your Power Surge up. Especially if you're shooting literally anything. Also, you have Surge of Power on it, so you can literally just pop that for extra move speed, because Surge of Power will give you extra move speed. I don't understand how people... This is again, nothing against David. I don't understand how people can have, like, you know, ability points, right? And not immediately invest it. That blue suggested text is, like, screaming at me right now. It's actually frustrating me, but it's okay. This one get us 25,000, by the way. Holy shit! Oh my god! Wait, he knows that you can destroy that? There's people in, like, Platinum currently who don't know that.
Like, part of me says I need to be up there helping him.
Yeah. I mean... Okay. So, the Apollo kind of just entered there. You and Apollo probably could have killed that McGinnis if you did ignore the wave and try to kill her, but that also could have gotten you killed. So technically it wasn't like what he just did there was no, not technically. Factually, what he did there was correct. He made the right choice by no stretch of the imagination, because walking up there and trying to kill that McGinnis was maybe possible, but even if they killed that McGinnis, which is maybe possible, I'll give it like a 50-50 chance. Even if they killed the McGinnis, there were 3 people coming on their way to kill David and that Apollo. Which, you know, it's basically just another macro thing. It's like, can I kill this McGinnis? Where are the enemies on the map? I'm not saying you have to actually consciously, with your brain, keep track of where each and every enemy is on the map, because that's, I'm sure, is far too difficult for someone who's just started playing the game. However, what I do want you to do is, when you're, like, even at where your Guardian would be, right, I want you looking at the map and saying, like, okay, where is the enemy team? And I'm not saying, like, oh, where's the Mina? Where's the Lash, right? I'm saying look at the lanes to see how far pushed up they are. If your lanes are like right at the enemy's base guardians, that's what they're dealing with. Okay, so you know that you can walk up and kill the McGinnis there if that's the scenario, because they're busy dealing with that. You know, at least 2 of them are doing that, right? And then you also have to ask yourself, where's my teammates? And with that, obviously, you don't have to keep track of it because you can just look on the map, right? And if you don't know where your teammates are, you can say, okay, well, can I kill this McGinnis, you know, quickly enough to kill her and then get away, or will that take too much time? And you can, you know, you can kind of vibe it out, right? You can start fighting her, go like, okay, her health isn't dropping nearly as quickly as I would like it to, and then just get out of there. That's absolutely a completely understandable way to play the game. Going back to his talking about his build, I see that burst fire is an item that he's building. He shouldn't be here, by the way. He's far too pushed up. Well, okay. Actually, I'm wrong. I wasn't paying attention. The Celeste just got 3 kills on their McGinnis, their Warden, and their Lash. Right? And this enemy team really has no way to contest the mid-boss. I mean, okay. Technically, Goo Ball it can stun a bunch of enemies a bunch of times if he really wants to, but this is Bricklow. I just don't think that this guy has his degree in goo balling. So what I'm trying to say is, and this is just kind of a general rule of thumb, unless the enemy team has like crazy contest ults or just a crazy contest comp, once you have like 1 or 2 enemies dead, well, okay, once you have 1 or 2 people up on the enemies, depending on how late into the game it is, right? Like at 25 minutes, I would absolutely be looking for at least 2 kills, which you have, and then later into the game, it can be just 1. There is no reason to ever not be going mid-boss every single time. What I'm trying to say is do mid-boss, hold tab, mouse over to the mid-boss button, and then just spam click it as you make your way over there, because your teammates are as dumb as a bag of rocks. They do not know to do this. They're wrong. But obviously, barring mid-boss, what David's doing here isn't that bad either, because he can pressure their base guardians, which will unlock a fast zipline on blue, and then also allow them to start dealing damage to the shrines. Holy shit, this GUI is inting. This is not bad. He's stealing their tier 2. And assuming that his team is too stupid to go mid, which seems to be the case. Well, okay. He needs to get out of there. I would power surge here literally just for the movement. I would also go grab that movement buff, but you know what? That's cool. I just realized I don't think I've seen him use his ult all game. That's not true. He's used it twice, I think. Neither were useful. How did he just fucking... Holy shit, is he Neo? Look at the way he dodges the metal. What the fuck? Auto aim bats my ass. What the fuck was that? Oh. Honestly, I don't even expect people to have Counterspell in Bricklow for Lash. But, like, there's no reason you can't have an Indomitable, especially a 7. I mean, I'm assuming that he has debuff reducer on his build because he's gonna get Stoppable next. Hi there, editing Fighter Jet for hopefully the last time. He does not get Unstoppable next. I went back and looked at his build. And this actually exact scene that we just saw, that him getting Death Slammed, is the exact reason why Auto Q is so dog shit. Because his team is extremely up right now. They're winning by a large margin. And really the only thing that GAMIN4HOPE needed in his build was something like Unstoppable or Indomitable, because he just needed a way to handle the Lash CC. If he could do that, then his team might have ended right here. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, and they go for another, like, 7 to 8 minutes. And unlike Counterspell, which I don't expect him to both have or be able to use, Unstoppable is literally just the press of a button, and it is in the build. But if he just was buying things by thinking about what he needs, which Auto Q does the opposite of, by the way, it removes the thinking from it, which is the whole problem with the thing, because you can't just mindlessly buy items past, like, the 20-minute mark. Like, yeah, maybe your first, like, 8 items can all be the same thing. That's fine. But after that, you need something, especially if you're winning.
No, now we lose for sure.
Okay, he's actually getting out. Pop power surge here for the movement speed, because... And I actually am not expecting David to know this, unless he watches this video. Then in the future, David, you best be knowing this. Surge of Power is an item that imbues itself on an ability. When you use that ability, it grants fire rate and move speed, and it also imbues that ability with extra spirit power. It's a really nice item, and basically why I'm bringing it up is that you want to haul ass to get out of here. That Celeste is dead. Well, okay, it's Celeste, and she's really well designed, so maybe she's not dead, but it's not your job to worry about her, okay? It's your job to get out of here, because as a low mobility carry type hero, your job is to die as little as possible and have as much money as possible. So what you need to be doing right now is prioritizing you living, and to do that, you need to be just running the fuck out of here, and to do that, you need the extra move speed from Surge of Power, which you can do by just pressing your 3. And again, your 3 basically lasts as long as its cooldown is, so you can just press 3, and, like, you're losing nothing. You're losing nothing. This build gets unstoppable super late. Why does it have both Burst Fire and Spiritual Overflow? What the hell? I hate this build. Why does it have Echo Shard? What are you Echo Sharding? This isn't good. First of all, your team is... Well, they're trying to poise to end the game here. They shouldn't, because they're down a man and they're just trying to walk down yellow to get it. But hey... It's Bricklow, anything can happen, especially when your Celeste is nearly $60,000. Okay, so at this point, it's not the correct choice. You're actually down 2 men because your Dynamo's down in green. 3 if you count yourself. It's just Paige, Yamato, and Celeste up there. It's just getting worse as I explain. Okay, the Celeste just died. What you should do is be recognizing that you really just shouldn't be there and should be walking backwards.
I should have gone to fight with them first.
Okay, so when his Celeste and Paige died up there on yellow, he's thinking it's his fault. As much as I would like to blame David just in general, because that's just fun to do, they should not have been there. They were the ones trolling. That's it. I can't believe that I'm, like, defending GAMIN4HOPE. Okay, so right here, You see these minions flying by on the zipline. Shoot them down from the zipline. I know that you know that's a possibility because I've seen you do it, right? Shoot them down from the zipline because currently you cannot siege their base. You do not have a minion wave. I mean, also, you know, you shouldn't be sieging the base, but whatever, your team wants to int down blue to end the game. And I'm not sure that your team doesn't want to do it, and I'd rather your team just make that decision together, even if it's the wrong one. But regardless, if that's what they want to do, then you have to clear the wave so that you can have a wave so that you can actually deal damage to the patron. He actually is having good macro here, he's paying attention to the fact that there are enemies on green. This is just the end of the game, I'm quite sure. Yeah. Damn, he almost bought Unstoppable. I really would have liked to see what happens if he had an active item. Like, would he use it? That is what I'm very curious about. Now, I chose this game specifically out of the ones that he played in this stream because I think it was the one that someone could learn the most from. He made a lot of mistakes, but a lot of them I genuinely don't think were that awful. You know, I wouldn't say he did anything in this game that was actually actively throwing. In fact, I found a lot of examples in this game, as we saw, where a new player, like David, did something that they thought was bad, and then ended up trying to overcorrect and do it just because the rest of his team, you know, died not because of, just around him making that decision. Like when they were inting up yellow there while he was taking that sinners. However, as you might be able to tell by my use of the term inting, that's actually not the case. They were making the wrong decision there. And the reason why I bring this up isn't like to shit all over Bricklow players. Like, I know that this is what those lobbies look like. The reason I bring this up is to underline kind of the deceptive nature of a MOBA, if that makes sense. It's really hard to understand what's right and wrong. That's why you have so many players that so vehemently believe in what they're doing, because they get very frustrated when others don't do that, right? Because they don't understand this, because they think that they have the formula to winning. And a lot of the time, you know, you find out whatever formula you believe is the winning one is probably not it. There are a million ways to play this game wrong. And the point is, between like these decisions that he thought were bad and the ones that were actually bad, are that you have to stop thinking about the team sometimes. I'm not saying I don't want you to play with your team. I think it's great to play with your team when it's important, but a lot of the time, your team is going to make the wrong decision, and it's not your fault that they make the wrong decision. Sometimes you just have to let your bad teammates die. You cannot save them as 7. Even if you're playing as support, you can't save them that often if they're making bad decisions like that left and right. Your teammates are not your responsibility, especially if you're playing an M1 carry like 7. Your responsibility is to kill the enemy team and not int. That's literally the only two things that 7 actually has to think about, right? How do I kill the enemy team? It's get a bunch of farm, hold M1, win the game, right? How do I not die? It's not walk up when it's a bad idea. Overall, I would say that David is genuinely not that bad at this game, at least from what I've seen. I'm not going to go as far as to say that he's good at the game. I mean, no one in Bricklow is good at the game. But I am pleasantly surprised. I think that he doesn't have any miserable habits. I think that there's an information gap between what he should be doing and what he actually is doing. But that is, again, all of Pisslow. I think he needs to work on his movement, but hey, so does all of Pisslow again, right? I don't think anything that he's doing is like inherently wrong or bad. I think that with a stronger grasp of the game's mechanics and what specifically he should be doing from moment to moment, he could, oh god, I'm gonna say this, he could genuinely be good at the game. Now, why is this different from Overwatch, right? Because very infamously in Overwatch, GAMIN4HOPE, I don't know how to put this in a nice way, he is awful at the game. He is hard stuck platinum and has to get boosted to diamond just to fall back into platinum all the time. People call him the Hitler of Plat for a reason. He also has a infamously bad mental in Overwatch. Constantly blaming his teammates, constantly just like saying things that just don't make sense, always suspecting that the enemy team are stream snipers and smurfs because they're winning. But the point is, right, David wasn't doing that in this game, and obviously it's because he knows nothing about this game, right? So unlike in Overwatch, where he clearly feels so self-assured in his understanding of the game, he doesn't doubt the decisions he makes, unlike in this game, right? And I think very clearly, the fact that he does promotes like a, oh god, alright, call me a second grade teacher, because I'm about to talk to you about a growth mindset. Because constantly questioning, like, did I make the right decision there? It's going to help you grow in the game. You know what? I just realized I already made an entire video about that. But it's for that reason that I think GAMIN4HOPE could genuinely do well in Deadlock, just as long as he understands the principle that you always need to be committed to learning in this game, because MOBAs are so, like, difficult and complex that you are never fully 100% right when you talk about this game. And if you think like that, then you rage a lot less, and you become a lot less like Metro. And if you're not like Metro, I would call that a win. And finally, if you are watching this GAMIN4HOPE, take my insults with a grain of salt, because you have, like, oh god, like 75 times more followers than I do. So don't be mad. And also, please work on your movement. Please learn how to slide. I'm not asking you to, like, do something crazy. I'm not even asking you to have movement like I do, which I don't think my movement is, like, super crazy insane, but I think I like to think I'm better than the average player at it, because, again, I did spend a lot of my late teens playing movement shooters, so I should hope that that translates just a little bit, right? But the reason why I bring up movement specifically is because Deadlock is a movement MOBA hero shooter. It's not a hero shooter, fuck you, but, you know, people think it is, right? But it absolutely is a movement shooter, and that's a very important stipulation, because movement can absolutely, like, save you from so many bad situations. And it's also the reason why a lot of people absolutely despise certain heroes like Celeste, Mina, Pocket, who else? Oh, Jacob Lash. I forget, there are some people who are wrong and think he's, like, OP. And that's basically all I have to say. I know David's only playing this game for, like, a week or so, apparently, so this will probably fall on deaf ears. I just thought it was interesting to analyze his gameplay, and at the end of the day, I'm the one who makes the videos, so I get to choose what they're about.